guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm back here with one video which is in continuation video. So let's talk about that, what I'm going to do here. So if you navigate on my channel, you might have seen or might not have seen Spring Boot videos, and this is a two-part video as of now, and now I'm going to create a third part of this one. So this current video, if you are going to watch, if you are watching this, you have to watch the first two parts, because the code or the format that I'm using will not be clear if you are directly coming at this video. So have a look at those videos first, and then you can continue on this one. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I have this application up and running. So what I will do is I will first show you what I am going to do, and then I will rewrite the code once again, and then explain it line by line, like how should we do it, and why have I done that, and what is the purpose, right? So here if you see, this is a login page, a simple login page. It's not much, but previously in my second video of this application, I did not use any database. The password was in string variable, and that's how I was checking if the user is typing the right password or not. So now I'm using the database, so that's how it is getting the password, and it is going to be secure. And I want this application which you can use in enterprise or maybe in organization level, or maybe if you want to have your own startup, that way also. So this is going to be full-fledged application where you won't see anything missing. You will see everything working and as it is, right? So if I try to log in, I won't see much there, like it just says welcome admin to the site, and I will work on this later on, maybe in the futuristic part. So here let's say if I don't type the right password, so what it should display is please provide the correct user ID and password, right? And when you do provide the right password, this should not happen, and it doesn't, right? So this is a simple UI, it's not much, but here we will start with CRUD, and here we will slowly move towards the full-fledged application. So before we kick on to this video to see the code and working functionality and an explanation, main part, if you are new to my channel, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. You just have to hit the red color subscribe button, and that's all, and that will give me enough motivation to keep making more videos for you guys for free. So yeah, now let's see what we have to do, but first let me clean this up, and yeah, I have to delete a lot of things, then we can slowly work on it. Okay, so the code right now is exactly like what we had in the part 2 of this series. So what we have to do is in a sequence. So I have written it down so that I will not forget any step. So these are the steps, and these are the basic steps that we have to follow. So most of you guys might not have MySQL Workbench. So first we have to install it. You can directly Google it and just go like this, MySQL, and let's say Workbench download. So there you will see the official link, and that's how you will download and install it. So once you install, you will be able to see what I will see. So that will be the first step. So let me just open it. So when you open it for the first time, okay, it's taking some time. So it will look like this. If there is no connection for you, you can create a test one, but I think there will be a default test connection for you. So just double click on it, and if it asks you for the password, I think you might have given that up in the installation process. So whatever password you have given in the installation process, use the same one, right? So also in the case if you haven't set the password, or maybe you forgot it, there are a lot of ways that you can Google to reset or set the password. So here what we have to do is we have to create a schema, because our application is going to use a particular database and a lot of tables, but for now there is going to be only one table. So right now we are going to create a schema, and then we will create the user table. So to create the schema, we can simply do like this. Okay, waiting. So here you just have to provide. So I know like I don't have a full-fledged application, so I will just do Spring JSP demo, and this is the name of my application. So it works for me, but maybe not for you. So think of a good name, and that's it. If you don't see it here, just click on this, right click and refresh all. You will be able to see your schema. So now we have this, and now we have to make it as default schema, otherwise it will ask us to choose the schema, right? So now we have to create the table. So we have to create a user table. Now again I'm going for the basic and necessary stuff. So in this table I just want to put user ID and user password. So user ID is going to be unique, and password, it can be same. So I don't want to hold any information like mobile number, email address, like that. So it is going to be a simple table, but you can add more columns if you want, because the format will be same. So let me write down the query, because there is not much to explain, and then we will talk. Okay, so this is what we have to write. So like I know like most of you are familiar with this, but if not, this is a simple query. It looks like this, but if you are a Hibernate user, maybe you don't know about it. So here what I have done is I have this ID, which is going to be my primary key, and this is going to be auto increment, and it is just for numbering and stuff, nothing else. User ID is going to be string, because it can be anything, and so is the case for user password. And I have made unique key as user ID, because I don't want multiple user to have the same login ID, right? So that's it. This is it what we have to do, and just execute it, and let's refresh it. So now we have our table ready. So right now there is no option to register the user. So initially I'm just going to hit insert query for my admin user, and later on we will make a page where a user can register itself and then log in, right? So we will work on that too, but for now I just have to hit a simple insert query. So let me first write it down, and then I'll explain. Okay, so this is what is going to be our user query, insert query. So it may seems different for some of you guys. So when we talk about password, so we should not save the password as it is. So we should always have some kind of algorithm, like in simpler terms, just think of like we are not actually saving the password, but something that only we as a developer or we as an organization can recognize, not some hacker. So we have to have some kind of encryption algorithm used for our password, which later on gets encrypted, and then it will get saved. So that's why that's actually why we have to use encryption, because we don't want any hacker to get the data and log in through our user, because this is not a good way, and it will not be good for the image. So there are a lot of encryption algorithm that we can use. Simpler ones are like MD5 encode decode, and this one I prefer because this is the one which is preferred and mostly used algorithm. So AES encryption and AES decryption, these are the ones that we have to use. For you guys, maybe you don't have to use hex. So let me first tell you what this is doing. So AES encryption needs two parameters. One, the password, the actual password for me, which is root, and then it needs a secret code. So I just named it as secret, and because I did not want anything else. So you can have anything that you want here, but remember that whatever you put here while decryption, you have to pass on this value. So this key is going to be used for encryption as well as for decryption. So here we have used AES encrypt function. For decryption we will use AES decrypt function. If you want to know more about these algorithms or these functions, like Google it, you will see a lot of information. So when I execute it without hex, what happens? And this doesn't happen for a lot of user, and I have already worked with AES encrypt before and I did not use hex and it was working fine for me, but now it is not. So I don't know what's the issue, but if you see here incorrect string value. So what's happening is AES encrypt and AES decrypt doesn't give us string values, rather they give us bytes. So bytes cannot be stored as a string, so that's why Oracle is creating, MySQL is creating an issue here. So that's why we use hex, just to cast our value. So that's why I had to use hex, and if I execute this, you can see that one row got affected. So that means that we have the data now. So if you try to do a query, so here you can see the password is not actually readable. If you type in this password, it is not going to let you in. So that works for us, and just to get the password we have to decrypt it. So for now, just think of encryption right now, that we have to encrypt it using AES encrypt, and then there are more methods to do it. Maybe you just have to Google it. Now for decrypt, what we have to do, whatever I'm doing here is actually going to be used in Java also, or maybe in Spring. So but right now I'm not going to do any insert query, but further on I have to. So now for decryption, what I have to do is simply use AES decrypt function, and then it has to print the root as password. So let me write that down first, and let's then talk about it. Okay, so this is the query what we have to use. Now things gets complicated. So I had to do a lot of hit and try to find out this query. So user ID is going to be needed, because we have to know which row we have to fetch, and then AES decrypt again holds or needs two parameters. One is going to be the column name, where it has to fetch the data from, and the second argument is going to be that key that we used as a secret code, right? So here I have used unhex, and reason being we did hex here, so that's why I did unhex here, right? So after unhexing, it decrypts the password, but again it provides us bytes. It doesn't do a simple string. So again I could have done hex, but you should know more options or more ways to do it. So here we have another math function called cast, and here we are just casting it as char. So if I execute this query, the output will look like this, and this is the required output that we want. So this is the entire process related to database. I hope this was clear. If not, do let me know on the comment section. Now we have to make changes to pom.xml. There are few dependencies that we have to add, which are needed. So first being your Spring Boot and JDBC connection dependency, and then MySQL connector, and then we need one JSTL Java Servlet tag language. I hope I'm right there. So that is needed for important stuff, and I will come to that, or maybe you will know about it later on in this video. So first let me write those dependencies down and then we will talk. Okay, so these are the 3 dependencies that we had to add. This is the simple Spring Boot started JDBC, and what this is going to do is when we say let's provide us some methods through which we can query or have a row mapper where we can actually map each rows maybe to an object or maybe to a list of objects, right? So Spring Boot provides us this, and this is similar to JDBC template if some of you have used it. Otherwise we can use JP also instead of JDBC. Again we need MySQL connector Java, and this is for MySQL and Java. This is nowhere related to Spring or Spring Boot. Then we need JSTL for again JSPs. So these are the 3 dependencies which we had to use. Now we have everything set with the dependencies. It is going to take some time, and in the meantime we can see what we have in the next step. So application.properties. Okay, so in application.properties currently I have this. I have added this line because 8080 was being used in some other application, so I had to do a lot of changes, so that's why I just changed the port. So now we have to provide JDBC connection strings. So when we say connection string, it's like at which server do we have our database, on which port are we running on that server, and what is our database name, and then it will ask us few more details. No, it will not ask us, rather we just have to provide like what is a username, what is the password for that schema, or sorry, for MySQL, and what is the platform, are we using MySQL or Oracle, right? So these are the stuff that we have to use. So let me just quickly write them down. Okay, so here we go. I have made a mistake here. So this is going to be our data source URL, which contains localhost being my server, and schema name, username, password. Wait, yes, okay, that's good. And platform is MySQL. So this is what we had to do. Now let's come down to Java changes. So what we have to do is, we don't have a Pojo class or maybe a bean for user where we will create, or we may need a user object maybe to get or put stuff like that. Then we need a DAO layer and service layer for our what to say, loosely coupled application code, and then we have to do some controller and JSP changes. And for these JSP changes, that's why we used JSTL dependency here, right? So let's quickly make those changes. So okay, Eclipse is really slow, so I have to create a class bean actually. So user, and here the package is going to be okay, next time I have to remember this. So I'm going to create separate packages for packaging purpose, so that in case I need more beans, I can easily find them going to the package bean, right? So that will always provide me a good interface. So let it get created. So now what we need only 2 things, ID and password, and then we need getter setter methods, and that's it. So let me quickly write them down and then we will move forward. Okay, here we go. So I have created user ID, password, getter setter, and the toString method. That's it. That is what we needed. And let me refresh this. It looks weird here. Okay, now it's okay. Now what we need is we need DAO layers and service layer. So let's quickly do them. So we need interface for that, because like I said, loosely coupled. So first let's work on service. So here we only need one method, which is just to fetch the list of users, like let's say not a list of user, rather to just do a simple query to find the current row inside our user table. So for that we just have to make a method which is ultimately going to execute a query like select star from user where user ID equals admin, stuff like that, right? So it has to return me only one row. So that's why I have to use user here as object, and that's why we created this bean. And here I'll just do get user by user ID, and here I will do user ID. I have to import user. Okay, so this looks good. Now we have to make the implementation for service layer. So we have to create a class now. So here I'm going to create another package IMPL, and it is going to hold down all the implementation, but I think it is going to hold only one for now. But yeah, we should always create more packages just to provide more readability. Let me refresh this. This doesn't look good, and I think my Eclipse is really slow today for no particular reason. So here I have to implement my interface, because that's why I created the interface. So and that's why it is IMPL, right? Otherwise what's the purpose? So here I'll just do user service, and then I have to implement override the method. Okay, so here what we need, actually we need now our DAO layer. So first let's create those also. So controller, no, here. So first I need to create the interface. So here I will do DAO, and let's do user DAO, hit finish. Okay, so it got opened. So what we have to do again, this is the interface, so there is going to be only one method here, which is get. So think like this: DAO layer is what we created for data access actually. So DAO layer is actually going to get us the data, but service layer is like we use service lane to reach onto the highway, right? So that is the purpose of our service layer. So here again same format, and we have to import user. Work Eclipse, work. Okay, so this is good. Now we just have to create implementation, and this is the most important part here. Again a new package, hit finish. So now why did I say like this is going to be the important one? Because when we say DAO layer, it is going to have a lot of things. It is actually going to be a center point for us, because it is going to use those JDBC classes for which we added Spring Boot JDBC dependency in pom.xml, right? So there is a particular class that we have to extend along with implementing the interface, and that's why this is going to be the center point, because whatever queries we have to execute, whatever queries we have to have those in our user DAO, right? So here what we need first, let's extend JDBC DAO support. Right, now we have to implement our interface user DAO and import it. Now override. So for now we have only one query that we have to execute, right? So this DAO layer is actually going to be our repository, so we have to make it known to our Spring Boot that this is our repository. Now what we have to do is JDBC DAO support provides us a few functionality which reduces XML part of work, or maybe configuration part of work. So here what I'm going to use is what we did in our application or properties. We created a data source, so that's what I'm going to create here, and this is going to be used often. So now we have data source, and data source is data source is going to provide us the necessary instance to execute or to hit the database, right? So we have this. Now we just have to initialize this. So first we have to do post construct here, and to initialize we just have to create method name like initialize, right? And we have to call set data source, and here we will just do data source. So it is going to initialize with the properties that we provided in application or properties, and that's it. This is all configuration part, and now we just have to work on actual query. So here we know what query we have to hit, right? So let me copy this down. Okay, let's talk about one more thing that I forgot. So let's say if we don't cast or decrypt here, right? There is a way that you can do it through Java also. You just have to use AES decrypt particular methods, and then you can decrypt the password in Java also. But I thought it would be simpler to do it in database or Workbench for now, so that's why I'm not using that method. So for now we just have to do this, and here we need question mark, right? Everything looks good here, and let me write everything down and then I'll explain. Okay, so this is going to be our code. So let's talk about this, but first let's import these. Okay, so looks good. So here we use JDBC template, and this is being provided to us by JDBC DAO support. And here I'm just querying for object because it is going to return me a user. So here I am just getting one column, right? So because I did not I did not want to get both the columns, because I already know what my first user ID is, right? So that's why I'm just setting it directly here inside my macro, and in the second line I'm just getting what I got from my select query. So this is what is setted here, and then I'm just returning the user instance. So in layman terms, I executed the query using get query for object method, and it requires SQL being our query, and the second parameter it needs, here you see a question mark. So basically you can see this as a prepared statement. It's not a statement, it's a prepared statement, which means that we are going to later on provide few variables or few values to it, and that's how we provide it. We create a new object array, and in the order of question mark we provide the values, right? So if we had more question mark, we can provide like this, comma, and then like this, comma, and then like this. So for now we just need this, and this row mapper is being used to map columns to our objects variable, right? So this is what we did here, and then we returned user, and this is it. what we had to do. Now let's come down to our service implementation. So like I said, DAO layer is going to be the most important or the center point of view, but doesn't mean service layer is not what we needed. So service layer is what we are going to refer, and service layer is going to refer user DAO. So we are not directly going to hit user DAO, but through user service we are going to hit user DAO, right? Again, to provide more loose coupling. So here what we need is, we need user DAO because we have to use its method. So let's auto wire it and import this, and then we have to do user right. Now what we have to do is we just have to hit that method and get the object back in our user variable. So here user DAO dot get user by ID, and here we will just do return user, right? Looks good. But here I forgot that this is going to be our service. Okay, so I hope I haven't left anything. Okay, this is good. So now what we need, let's come back here. So we have created user bean, we have created DAO service layer and their implementation. Now we have to do controller and JSP changes. So if you saw the part 2 video, you might have seen a if condition here, which is actually doing admin and root like check, and then directly returning login, otherwise it is returning an exception kind of error, right? But it doesn't look like an exception in the part 2 video. But now I'm going to make those changes through Bootstrap to look like to make it look like it is actually an error. So here what we have to do is, first we have to create user service instance, and we have to auto wire it. Okay, good till here. Now what we have to do is, first we have to get the password. So where is our password? It is in. So now you might be thinking we just have to fetch the password, so why are we getting the whole object? Because it could be like you have to get the entire row of user. Maybe in future you have more columns other than just user ID and password. So for that case I'm just getting the whole object. So that's the very purpose. Otherwise there is no meaning in using this. So get user ID. So now I have user object here, and I just have to compare. So password the user is providing on UI is going to be in this variable, and the password, the actual password which is stored in the database, is going to be in this object. So now we have to just do a simple if user dot get password dot equals password. So if it is equals password, that means that yeah, it's okay, go ahead, you are logged in. So we just have to do user ID, because in part 2 video I was using this. So yeah, for that. And otherwise, oh sorry, I have to return. So in this case I will return welcome page. I will again make more changes to it, and I have to return login. Also I have to return some kind of error which I can later on use in my UI. So I had this in my part 2 video, so I'm using this now. So this looks good, and I have seen some comments on my previous videos saying that whenever they try to hit login page, they see an error saying login.jsp not found. So if that's the case for you, you might have done something wrong with source main web folder. So the project structure looks like this, and if it is not looking like this, you have to make changes here, right? If not, if you are using the same thing which I am, then make your project structure look like this, otherwise it is going to create an exception. So now let's try to run this. I'll make changes to the JSP later on. So let's come to Google Chrome. I think something is, I did not run this, so let me quickly run this. Yeah, it got started. Okay, I think Eclipse is trying to be a pain in my so anyways, let's hit this again. Okay, so we have this login page now, and now let's try to hit. So yeah, we got welcomed, so that's good. Now you can try to hit a wrong password also to see if it is working fine. Okay, so I forgot to remove my changes from JSP, so this is how it is displaying that. So let's quickly come down to JSP. So in our login.jsp, what changes I made? So I did not had to actually do anything, because making database store the password and return the password is not related to your UI ever. So I just have to work on the error message, and I don't need this. So for that, what I did is I created this cif. So this is why we needed JSTL dependency. So here if error message is not empty, and what is this? This is what we are returning or putting along with our model here, right? So if it is not empty, meaning it is having the error message, we have to display this div, and this div I got from the Get Bootstrap site. You can just directly Google Bootstrap alert failures or something like that. It will give you a lot of options. I can do that right now. Error text, I think I did this. So here you see these are the options that you have. I chose this one, Danger one, because this is an error, so use a Danger. So that's how inside I'm displaying here the message also, and if it in case it was successful, it won't display, but in case of successful login, it is not going to be at login. But initially when you come to this login page, right, in case if your error message is empty, even then it is going to give you this red box, not the message here but the red box, and that is why I had to use this if condition, otherwise there was no need. So this is the entire code that I wanted to show you guys, and the next step would be to make a page for registering the user, and then make changes on welcome page, so that it should look like a dashboard rather than a simple welcome message. So for now, this is it for this video, and I really hope that we will meet in the next one, and till then, have a good day, stay safe, and bye bye.